How's it going?
It's going pretty good.
Now that you have a camera, it's a little nerve-wracking or what?
No, I sit in front of a camera most of my days, so just learn to accept it.
This one's going to be random, but I was thinking about what you said about Valorant and why you don't like it. You mentioned patience.
Oh, patience.
That's where I got the topic. I was like, and the reason why I figured it would be good because I have a lot of patience and we grew up in almost the same household, I would say. And just
interesting.
Wondering how I have a lot of patience and my dad has a lot of patience, but my mom and I guess you and Alex, our younger brother, doesn't have a lot of patience. And I was just kind of wondering where that comes from or how people have patience, because there is one area where I realize I don't have a lot of patience, and unfortunately that is parenting. Like there's certain things that just like whoom, and I go into this different mode that I'm working on.
Yeah.
But I was just kind of wondering.
That's a good question.
If you've ever thought about it, like
no, I didn't. I've never thought about it. But I'm curious how you define patience, because immediately I have thoughts when you say that, and I understand the differences.
That's why I was asking. First, in Valorant, what do you mean by patience? Is it the
Yeah, so from that perspective, for me, it's very much a factor of impulse control, and so I don't have impulse control, and that makes me impatient. Because I can't just sit there and wait for something to happen. It needs to kind of happen. And that, I didn't know this, but now that I do, it's kind of because I'm ADHD. And so it's like, that makes perfect sense. I have very bad impulse control. So a game like Valorant, excellent game. I love playing that game, but I'm just so bad at it because I just can't sit there patiently waiting. I'm like, no, something's going to happen. Someone's about to come around this corner, and I peek it and I die. And I'm like, damn it, I shouldn't have done that.
ADHD plays a factor. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Huge factor, yeah. At least in that regard, which is why I was like, how do you define patience?
Well, how about in social situations? Do you feel like that transfers? Where it's like if you're waiting in a line for too long, or if you're waiting in like...
Oh, yeah. Well, no, in that case, it doesn't really show up for me because, I mean, I'm just like, this is a line. Like, I don't have a problem waiting in a line. Like, I show up somewhere and there's a huge line. I'm like, well, I definitely want to do this, so I'm going to have to wait in this line. And it's just like, whatever. I'm just kind of sitting there and that, like... I kind of accept the circumstance. I'm not worried about like what I could change.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, yeah, here it is. I'm in line.
But in family situations, you are right? Like, or maybe not as impatient.
Well, yes, but... I am. Which is good that you mentioned that, because that's kind of where I was trying to ask you to define it.
Yeah.
Is patience a sort of byproduct of boundaries?
Okay.
And so when you have unhealthy boundaries, maybe you are more patient because you're willing to put up with a whole lot more shit that you shouldn't be putting up with.
That's a good point.
And it makes you seem patient, but really you're just kind of being subtly abused. The family example, where I am very impatient because now I'm unwilling to tolerate some of the toxicity and hostility that our family throws around.
Yeah.
I recognize it's not intentional. It's not like they're being malicious. It's just kind of the way they are. But yes, I don't have patience for it anymore.
Boundaries. Yes, because I tell people all the time when they ask me, how are you so patient? And I always remind them that all the thoughts that you have or that you say out loud and being non-patient, I have them too. It's just I don't say them. And maybe that's a byproduct of what you're saying, where it's what's your boundaries. Right. I just internalize it and move on. But some people have to,
which doesn't sound healthy.
I mean,
like you're internalizing it, but should you be internalizing it? Like what is an example of a patient scenario where you internalized it?
well, I feel like I'm internalizing a lot of things because to me, I look at it. I look at the outcome and it's like, okay, is it worth the fight or is it worth a discussion or like what do I need to do to get to that end? Like I look at the end goal of what I'm trying to accomplish. So in a family situation, I'm like you, I understand that there's a lot of dynamics that come into play. So I just kind of let things happen and it could be frustrating and make me impatient, but I just kind of deal with it and just like, all right, whatever. It's impatient. It is what it is. In other situations, if I'm, whether waiting for food at a restaurant or waiting for a line, I mean, those kind of situations, I don't really get impatient because I know there's an end goal, but I also understand like if someone cuts in front of me, like I'm not going to really get mad because it's not worth the fight. So it's more of like, what's the cost to what the outcome I want? And there's never been a situation where the cost is like, okay, that's worth it. So I'm going to say something, you know what I mean?
Interesting. So it's almost like confrontation.
It bleeds into confrontation. Yeah. Which I'm very non-confrontational for the same reasons. Yeah. Where it's like, what's the benefit of being confrontational in any scenario?
I guess sometimes you just got to push back if someone's in your space, if someone's just kind of, if you were to be sitting there watching somebody randomly start to get harassed by someone.
Yeah.
Would you say you're patient and just, wait it out? Or would you feel compelled to be like, hey, that's not cool?
I'll probably wait it out I'd probably wait it out. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of times even at, work situations where you just kind of wait it out but it is interesting. It bleeds into more, boundaries, confrontation.
Right. Yeah, it is. Patience, I don't have a lot of it personally. And a lot of times, like, I don't know how to collaborate very well, so it's difficult for me to be patient in a scenario where there's collaboration. It's like the whole idea of like a group project. I need very clear objectives. I need defined roles, defined tasks. I can't just, have it just be like, oh, well, what do you guys want to do? Like, what are y'all thinking about? Like, this just like, it's just too agonizing for me to just sit there in that space, just be like, okay, like I always understand what I want to do. So I feel like my default is to be like, okay, well then let's do this. And then people are like, oh, you're such a good leader. You should be the manager. And I'm like, no, actually, I don't enjoy that. I'm not patient enough to wait for y'all.
But when you mention it's not healthy for me to internalize it, I also think that people who are not patient have a lot of work to do because it's like,
there's a good balance there.
Yeah, where it's like, especially, I worked as a server and obviously in the food industry a long time, and it's just like the amount of people that are not patient when they clearly realize that there's a lot of outside factors that are causing their issue and they just can't see it. It baffles my mind.
Well, right. That's, that's, I got to pick my words real carefully here.
But that is a form of patience, right? Or would you categorize it something different?
No, it is. It is a form of patience. I don't know where the biology sits on it. Like I know that at least I've been told that we don't fully mature until we're 25.
Yeah,
the front of our brains finishes actually growing, and we start to comprehend the idea of like cause and effect. We're not as impulse driven. We're not as.
But I see that a lot in the older people. Actually, I've never really had a lot of young people.
And that's what I was getting at, because there's also if I'm not mistaken, some studies that have shown that growing up in a stressful environment really sets you back in your development phase permanently. Even I think it's not just like a couple of years. I think your brain it grows different, not grows, but like you just develop differently. And so when I was thinking about you were just saying with the people eating, for me, I this is a total anecdote. I have no data to prove this, but whenever I'm driving on the highway, I can almost certainly tell where, like, how do I, this sounds so fucked up. It's like a pattern where, like, I notice that the most aggressive driving happens in very specific parts of towns. And then I start to look at, like, the demographics, the socioeconomic factors, and I'm just like, damn, is there a correlation here possibly? Like, is being impatient a result of living under stress and living under oppression and all this? Because like
you just get stuck in that mindset when you were developing up to 25 and it never
I mean, yeah, I don't know what it is. It's just,
I mean, we just talked about it. There's a lot to it, right?
Yeah,
boundaries,
right, yeah,
like everything manifests.
Like you would lose your patience when everything in your day is going wrong, and it's just like the one thing you were counting on is just not going. You're just like, man, fuck this. Like, I've been there. I've definitely lost my patience a lot in the past with those cases. I've been careful not to take it out on people.
It's interesting because I think when I was younger, I was a little more impatient growing up.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But I also, I've realized this for a long time too. Like, to get to myself, I think I scared myself when I was younger. When I would have, you remember I was crazy. Like, I would get to these
crazy.
No, I'm just saying I would get to these moments and I would rage out.
Yeah, outbursts of rage.
Outbursts. Those outbursts scared me, so I never wanted to. And I've known this for a long time. I've talked about this with people that I've never. Like, it scared me so much that I never wanted to do that. So I kind of hold that also in the back of my mind whenever I'm thinking about situations. It's like I never want to ever get to that point where I break like that. So
sure. I mean, that makes sense. Did you ever think about why that point might have been reached?
Yeah, I mean, what do you mean? Like, why?
Yeah, like it wasn't random. It wasn't just like a random event. Like, there was a very clear pattern of things happening.
I don't remember all the situations, but I mean, I know some of them were just me being just a kid, and like in terms of just
it was a trauma response.
Yeah,
it was you were.
I mean, yeah, I remember specific ones that were very trauma related, but
yeah, like you basically were not processing the circumstances around you, not because of anything. Like, it's not your fault. You were just being put in extraordinarily difficult circumstances for a child to understand and comprehend.
Yeah.
And so I think that was your way of like processing that grief more than anything. And anger tends to be like the first thing that comes out.
Yeah.
So,
but I just wonder, when you talk about the socioeconomic places, it's like why I was able to make that observation so young. And I mean, I knew that since probably, like, so I would say middle school, high school. Like, I never knew, like, okay, there's a certain line you can push me, and then when you push me to that, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's very normal. I think a lot of people recognize their like, I guess we can call them boundaries. They might not be understood that way. You hear that a lot in the way that sounds, I guess, is what I'm saying, is people have alter egos. They're like, oh, let's go rage tonight. We're going to get like drunk such and such, or, I'm going to get angry such and such. Yeah. Like they identify these like personalities or these like names to these people. It's just within them. But all that is unprocessed shit, man. Like I think that's what I'm trying to say, is like, it's not there's like a switch inside of you that flips randomly.
Okay.
You build up over time because you don't process that, like the daily grief, and then it just explodes. And that happens to everybody.
That part did. Yeah, I learned to not hold everything in over the time.
Yeah, it's really hard. Our culture makes it very difficult as well, because we don't like to talk about things too much.
But you've always known that you're not patient, right? Or is this something that you just realized?
I mean, I guess I've never really thought myself as impatient. Like I never thought I lacked patience.
Yeah.
I actually would get the opposite messaging. I get my work. I would always be told I was very patient. Like when I was young and worked in call centers, I loved getting the angry callers. I loved those calls. Those were the most fun because they were kind of a break from the norm. And I enjoyed bringing those people down, like just calming them down. And like everybody would get so angry at that. They'd get so mad. And I get it. Like nobody likes to like pick up the phone and get yelled at, but it would, yeah. So
that was going to be one of my things because we both worked at call centers for a long time. And
yeah,
I think that also helped me develop understanding of different scenarios of people calling in mad and patience. But I just looked up for definition purposes. The word patient means to accept or tolerate delays, problems, or suffering without becoming annoyed or anxious.
Okay, yeah, and that's excellent definition. I'm glad you looked it up. I'd be willing to bet the anxiety is what fucks people.
Okay,
because I think there's a lot of anxiety about a lot of things, and yeah. Like there's that whole definition sounds like accepting is the key to patience and yeah, accepting
and tolerating.
That's difficult.
So I'm more in the tolerating. I just tolerate this stuff more than most. I mean, I don't know if I really accept this stuff. I just tolerate it.
Yeah. But think about the situations sometimes. Like let's like go through a scenario where like let's say you're a person and your birthday's coming up.
Okay.
And, you work 60 hours a week, minimum wage, and you can barely afford your rent, your groceries. You want to splurge on your birthday because it's special. And you maybe want to go to like an Olive Garden because I love that food. You show up, it's your birthday, and the food just comes out whack.
Yeah.
Like it comes out whack. And so now you're in a situation where you have to, like, what are you accepting there? What are you tolerating? You're already going completely out of your way here.
Okay.
If you're, let's say you're loaded, and the same scenario, that food comes out whack, you're like, it's okay, don't worry about it. Kitchen's backed up, I get it, don't worry. I'm gonna go next door. It's fine.
Yeah.
But when you don't have that luxury of money, or maybe time even, maybe you're on a crunch and you can only eat in that hour. All of these circumstances that you have to tolerate and accept become very frustrating.
Yeah.
So then are you impatient? Is it a lack of patience? Or are you just tired of getting the shit end of the stick everywhere you go?
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's more of what have you tolerated up to that point that makes you impatient, quote unquote.
Yeah, I think that's true. It's like how are you? Like maybe you just got paid, you paid all your bills, everything's good, so you're feeling, you're high on it. You're like, it's fine, whatever.
So
like maybe you understand.
It does seem to. It's like a built-up thing where it's like you maybe are good at tolerating for a certain amount of time, and then it hits the fan, or you are just a quick trigger who just says whatever in every moment, and that makes you seem impatient, but it's just you just don't have tolerance for things,
Yeah, I mean it's,
or you don't accept certain things like at all. So,
well, yeah, that's a good one. It's all over the place because a lot of it, like when I think of situations that I've witnessed where people like might have been like textbook definition of lacking patience, it was very obvious that this person was in some state of like suffering.
Yeah.
Like it's never like a casual chill fucking person that just goes, at least not typically. I understand that happens, but and I think it's got to do with anxiety. Like, I don't have a lot of anxiety. I mean, I do have anxiety. I just don't have it manifest in those ways, so not a lot of experience there. But when I think about the times it does manifest for me, it's a very irrational space. Nothing rational makes sense. Everything becomes like meaningless, and it's just like, no. This is what's going to happen, and I need to make sure it doesn't happen.
Yeah, when I look at, and I'm trying to now see why I'm so impatient when it comes to certain parts of parenting, I think it's because I don't know the answer.
Oh, that's good. That's a good one. So it creates anxiety.
Exactly.
So then, do you feel like you can't say I don't know?
No,
I feel like you need to have all the answers.
I feel like I do say I don't know, but it's like I don't know, like, and you're just impatient. But you just say you're just basically saying I don't know, and at this moment I don't fucking care. You're doing, you know what I mean? It's like you don't have time to really.
Oh, well, there you go. You just talked about a few of those things.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have time.
Exactly.
So the situation you're having to accept and you're having to tolerate.
Yeah.
It's just not vibing with the schedule you had in mind.
Or with the scenario, like
with the scenario, right?
That there legitimately may not be time. It's like there's no time, to do certain things. And so in that sense, I'm very impatient because it's like, it's more like finding a balance of you're not always right. Obviously, everyone knows that. But when you're in the heat of moment, trying to understand what someone is telling you or a kid is telling you, accepting that even though they're wrong, still.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. That.
And that part makes it really hard. So I think.
What's hard about it? I'm super curious. What's so hard about it? It's not like I ask because it's a common pattern.
Yeah. No, you see it all the time.
Yeah, like you end up constantly, I think, having to watch people do things that are hurtful for them.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I put in a lot of thought into this parenting thing, and I think because he probably made a lot of mistakes when he was younger, or when that at this point
make a bunch of mistakes all the time.
No, yeah, but I'm saying like now it's too late because now they are who they are, and now at this point in the game, it's just okay. Now we fix all those mistakes and we move forward, and we're in a better environment and things like that. But it's like they are who they are now, and you just have to live with it. And that's where we're at in terms of a lot of parents get to that point and they don't know how to accept the fact that from now on, really whatever you do, and we're talking because, my son's 13, but whatever you do is not really going to affect them anymore. I mean,
it is. I
mean, you have guide rails to make sure that they can, or a safe space that they can come to. So we're there in a loving way, but as far as like getting them to do things, it's very, very difficult. It's just like they're gonna do what they're gonna do at that point.
Right. I fully agree.
And so that's where parents really at this junction in kids, especially if I don't want to say you raise them wrong, but it's been everyone has a difficult journey with kids, but
for sure, and especially the teenage years. I think. Having been around a lot
they try to get a tighter grip during those years, which makes things worse. It's like,
because
it's counterintuitive. It's like now you have to kind of let go, and it sucks, and you don't know where it's going to end up. And then some of it is pride, some of it is it's not a reflection of your parenting.
It can be, but not fully.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is, but.
It's not in a negative way.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just the reality of life.
And some people, especially if they live in now opposite of what you're saying, affluent neighbor, or not even just like people judge people right? And so they don't want to be like, well, why is your kid doing this, or why is your kid doing, you know? And it's just like,
right. No, it takes a lot of kind of groundedness to be able to be a parent. I think it's fucking scary.
It's hard.
I've seen, yeah, no, it's hard. I've seen a handful of people like go through the process, and it's all different. Like I see it in very different ways, and for me, like the one thing I've kind of realized, and this is obviously me from my very privileged, not parent life perspective.
Yeah, it's okay.
Is like children get to a certain age around 13 when they become teenagers, where like you're basically just Google for them, and that's okay.
Yeah,
because like Google doesn't judge you. Google doesn't really try to like you Google whatever the hell you want, and it's going to give you responses, and it's going to try to think maybe you mean this, and it's going to but you click whatever you want. I think that's how it is. Like I've seen it play out where there's parents that are extremely overbearing and overprotective, and that doesn't usually pan out. The outcome of that is random. I've seen kids in that environment come out totally incapable and unable to like do anything on their own. And then I've seen really independent, determined children come out of that same environment with the resentment towards those parents. So it's like, it's a fucking gamble.
And that's the point, that like I've seen it so much, and now that I'm going through it, I'm trying to tell myself that as long as I'm there as a safe space, that's all I could do.
Right.
Because it is a gamble. I mean, we grew up in the same household. We ended up completely different.
Yeah. Right. In certain ways, yeah. I mean, I
mean, ours is not as extreme as most people. Like, we're more alike than different, but there is.
And I think that's something you should look into. I thought about that a lot. I've just kind of, for the record, like I hate when people shit on parents. Like it pisses me off. My friends that are parents, if they do it, I'm like, nah, dude, cut it out. Like you don't understand those people. You don't know their circumstance. Like just don't shit on each other. Like if you're not a parent, please don't shit on parents. Like that's
it is funny
so
not
annoying.
Watching non-parents be like, and I'm like, oh,
no, like don't shit on parents. Like parenting is not even. Yeah, dude, it's like playing D&D. You're just rolling dice. And so when I do think about it, for me, something that stands out is that we, as chaotic and like, you know, turbulent as our childhood was, we had a consistent home base. And so there was at least a sense of security in home.
That's true.
And our parents were both there. And were they like at each other's necks half the time? Sure. Did they probably need therapy? 100%.
Yeah.
Could they have used some boundaries? Fuck yeah. But they were there. And so like I think that helped us in whatever way. So
yeah, being just present, being there, someone that not even someone that you can talk to, but just more like knowing that they're always going to be there.
Right. Like for me, it kind of was more of like, there are things I didn't have to worry about. And it was very apparent when I would kind of be with like my friends that had homes that were cold. Like, you know, both parents were never there. Or if one parent was there, they were like sleeping or drinking or whatever.
I witnessed that early on too. Like I want to say 8th grade. And actually, now that I think about it, I think that might have played a factor in like, oh shit, okay, there's people living other lives. That's wild.
Right. So you go back to your home and maybe you see we see our parents fighting and arguing, but at the same time, it's like, well, shit, man. Like I know like every day, doesn't matter what day of the week, I knew my dad would be there to pick me up from school.
Yeah.
Like it didn't matter what the heck happened. I knew my mom would be there to like drive my ass to school until we could take the bus. Right. And so like, no matter what, like were they arguing? Was there chaos? Sure. But those little things were there. Like, was it annoying? Sure. But like, I always knew like my parents were there, like I could be like in soccer and nothing mattered because it'd be like, sure, we're fighting, but then it's like, all right, time to go to soccer practice. Go to soccer practice on time. Like there were these consistent things and we had this consistency. I think that helped because like you're saying, like you see these other households where that shit's just not present at all. It seems fun at first, right? You show up and you're like, damn, house to yourself, do whatever the hell you want, eat whatever you want. But then it's like, damn, dude, that sucks. Like,
yeah.
And so yeah, I think that's something like it's important.
A little bit of a tangent, but it's important because I think a lot of people struggle with that, and it's just accepting the fact that you gotta pretty much let go. But I would even say even younger. Now that if I were to raise another kid, I would definitely be more just like, I don't know, just hands free. Sounds weird, but just kind of let them do what they want. And like, you see it even as other, like when you said parents judging other parents, especially when they're young, 3, 4, 5, and it's like you see the kid doing whatever, and it's like, who's to say that's not better than you're the one saying like, hey, stop doing that, stop doing that, stop doing that. Like that has to affect the kid because I was the one who did that. Like, stop, and that affects the kid. But I don't know. But like you said, it's all a gamble because then the other kid who just gets to do whatever they want, who knows? Maybe.
I think, I don't know. Like whenever I thought of like, the possibility of like if I had to be a father and like raise a child, how would I do it? I don't know. I just get bored sometimes to think about it. What I would hope to do is just sort of be like accepting, really. Like, it helps that I'm the oldest, right? So like I've actually like I have this like very real human that I can point to, like 11 of you.
Yeah.
And just for the record, I don't have 11 siblings. I'm just a big family with a lot of cousins. And I see how everyone is so different, but they all grew up in the same houses. Like everybody is so different. And I just, to me, that's just kind of like, well, shit, dude, like just don't enable too much and just be a safe space. And honestly, just let people have their emotions. But when I say that, getting full night's sleep.
But we'll hold that because that's going to be a good segue. But just to close this part off, it is harder, especially when the judgment from other people makes it extremely difficult. Let's say your kid is playing sports and all of a sudden they start crying in the middle of the field, and it's like, it's like, I think the smarter way now would be like, you have to be there to protect from everyone and be like, hey, it's all right. Like, let them cry instead of, hey, stop crying. Like, we're in the middle of the game, or we're, you know what I mean?
Right. Oh yeah. Like,
but then you have everyone watching you, and it's just like, oh, and then
what's wrong with that?
I know, but I'm saying like people, like you have to be mature. You have to have really worked on yourself, and that's that's where it's like, I was young. I was like 24. It's like, I'm still developing myself. Now that I think about it, it's like, holy crap. But
that's true.
But the advice part, I wanted to talk about advice and the concept of advice, because you just mentioned, because now we're at an age, and maybe you've always been, and definitely me, but advice and giving advice.
People listen to you. Is that what you're about to say?
Well, I've gotten to a point where I don't know if I want to give advice anymore.
That sounds like you're on the right track.
And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because now we've turned to the OGs now. We're like the older people, not just within our cousins, but within a lot of people.
Yeah.
Within life. I mean, we're only in our mid 30s, but
yeah, we're the middle.
I still feel like I'm very young, and so it's a struggle. It's like people come to us for advice. I don't like to give advice anymore.
Why don't you like to give advice?
This is where I'm struggling. So I'm going to talk it out because I'm very curious to see.
Go for it.
What you think. Because I received a lot of advice recently, like, when I was going through my divorce and everything. So it actually really helped. So I figured I have a lot of experience. Maybe I can help. But it's not it's not that I don't want to give advice because I don't think people are going to take it, but it's just, I feel like I'm sometimes imposing my advice. And I know there's boundaries where it's like, hey, do you need advice or do you need someone to listen to? Right. But even if someone wants advice, it's like, I don't know if they really, really want it. And that could really affect a relationship, especially when you disagree or when what you're saying, it's like, well, that's not really what I'm going through. And it's like, well, no, I'm never going to actually know what you're going through. This is based off of my experiences. And if you tell me something, then based off the limited information that you tell me with the limited context that I have. Right. Okay, so that's where it bothers me, where it's like, I don't know if I want to keep doing that because.
Okay, that's fair.
I'd rather just be someone's ear now, and then.
That's not healthy.
Okay. Well, no, I'm saying like be someone's ear, say something, but not like fully like, okay, I think you should do this, or I think you should, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's very good. Like that's self-awareness. Like there's advice in a very like procedural manner, like, you know, maybe like at work, maybe you have like a junior, whatever, intern, and they're like, oh, I don't know how to do this report. I don't know how to do this process. You can give them some advice. So it's like, you can show them how to do it, or you can like advise them on how to do it. Like, well, maybe, you know, have you tried this? Have you tried that? And those are very easy advice. But when you're talking to people, I think advice kind of gets replaced with the word counseling.
Yes.
And I mean that in like the more literal term, like the counsel, like a lawyer, like to counsel, like to
yeah.
And that's where it's like, yeah, I agree. Like what I learned is don't ever solve people's try to solve people's problems. Like if someone comes to you and they have a situation, yeah, it's like, okay, do you want to just, you know, do you want to get heard and have, you know, me just listen, or do you want some feedback on what happens? I think feedback is also an important word.
Okay.
Because you can frame it in such a way where you're not telling someone what to do. You're kind of like, you know, this is the person that I know you to be. This is the circumstance that you find yourself in. And then you can just be like, I've seen this circumstance play out in a few different ways. And that's it. That's the advice. You can be like, have a good day.
Yeah.
$30.
Do you find yourself giving advice or a lot more nowadays, or?
I've always kind of been that way. I find myself today being more it's not my identity. That's what I'm trying to say. It used to be when I was young. I was an advice giver. Gotcha. That was my identity. People came to me for advice, and I took it was almost like a sense of pride of just like knowing like, oh, this is cool. This is the role I play. I didn't know how damaging that was, though. This is something that I worked through with my therapist, where she likes to call it the shit disposal. So being the person that everybody comes to with their shit is not necessarily healthy if you're not processing that shit. And that's what I wasn't doing. I was taking in everyone's problems, giving them advice, but I still had that problem. I still was holding on to that little nugget of poop.
Yeah.
Not doing anything with it creatively, artistically, whatever.
Well, that's the other problem of advice, because when you're giving someone advice, especially if it's something about another person that's personal, it's like you can say something that might be negative towards that person that you need advice about. And it's like the person you're giving advice may forgive that other person, but then.
I don't know. That sounds convoluted.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to see if I can explain it, but how do you say stuff without making permanent damage, I guess?
Okay, so like yeah. I think I understand what you're saying. I usually ask questions.
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of trick to get people to talk through. Like basically in the concept of counseling, generically speaking, not like nobody comes sue me. But in the concept, like whenever I would talk to you or whenever we talk to like any of our friends,
Yeah.
I try to ask questions, because really what 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 needs to happen is the person needs to come to a conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
They need to, like, it's kind of like Inception, you know, like where they have to believe the idea is theirs for it to really have permanence and stickiness. Someone just telling someone do this isn't going to work, because it's just like, okay, whatever. Like, unless that person's literally coming in and being like, I need to know exactly what to do. Usually it's not the case. So asking people a question, getting them talking through it, thinking through it themselves is kind of how you rationalize. Like, you walk them through that. So you don't ever have to tell the person anything. You can just be like, you know, like, oh, I'm thinking about doing blah, 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 blah. And then you can just be like, oh, like, well, what do you mean? Can you tell me more about that? And they're like, blah, blah, blah. And then you're thinking in your head, like, that's a really bad fucking idea. So you don't say it, that's a really bad idea. You can kind of be like, oh, okay, like, is there anything that you're worried might happen if you do that? And then they're thinking a consequence now, because you already know, you're like, ooh, the consequence is bad. And they might not get it. They think of like 5 other things, and they're like, you're like, oh, that's actually really interesting. And you're like, I was thinking, like, what if this happens? And then they're like, oh, I didn't think about that. Good point. And you just told them you're concerned. That's what you were trying to tell them. Like, what if this happens? So you kind of just...
That's a big skill.
Asking questions.
Yeah. Asking questions. The reason it's a big skill, because the reason I don't know if I want to give advice is because when I got all this advice through my divorce, I was very open to the advice, and I was also the people that I was asking advice, I know didn't get hurt if I didn't take their advice, because most of the time I'm not going to take everyone's particular advice, because they don't know all the context. They only know so much as what I'm telling them, but even I'm telling them is biased to my story. So eventually I have to make my own decision, which I think receiving advice is a skill, and I think giving it, because I was able to receive all this advice, look at things from a lot of different views, a lot of different perspectives, and then make my own decision on what I think was best at the time moving forward.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think there's I hate to say maturity, but that's kind of the best way to describe it. There's a maturity that's sort of required to engage in like that very like productive advice. If somebody is insecure, that doesn't tend to go well, because your advice will often come off as an attack to them. If someone's overly anxious, no matter what you say, it isn't going to change their mind.
Depending on your state of mind.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, and I think I should say it's actually really okay not to want to give advice. I am currently in that space. I've learned to... I thought it was a personality trait that was beneficial, that was positive of mine, where I could meet a stranger and just immediately engage in this deep conversation and be, giving them advice. But in reality, that's a really fucking big red flag. And now I'm like, if I see someone being overly vulnerable like that, I'm like, nope, not doing that. I just kind of wish them luck. I'm like, hey, you know what? It sounds like you got a lot going on. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
And you just move on.
I mean, that's difficult, because this is going to veer off probably to another conversation, but I feel like the small talk is so dumb that I'd rather hear that, because I feel like that's more real and that's more personal.
Yeah, no, I that's literally how I justify it. I would be like, well, no, this is blah, 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 but like the truth of it, this is not necessarily true.
Well, no, because you said red flag for them for being so vulnerable right away.
Right. Yes. Both red flags. Red flag for them, red flag for me. Right. And that's where, like, through therapy, I've learned, and this is, maybe it's tailored for me. I don't know, but it makes sense. A stranger shouldn't be that vulnerable. Like that is a red flag. Like, immediately, right? Like, let's say you show up to the coffee place. Let's say it's a coffee place in your neighborhood, and you show up first time ever. You're new. Hey, what's up? What's up? Then you start going every other day. Like you have a pattern, a routine. You start to develop this like natural kind of acquaintanceship with people.
Mm-hmm.
I think then it kind of mellows in, right? Like you're cool, you're cool. Like that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Like totally fine. You know, you start to learn more about people. But like, dude, imagine you roll into the coffee shop and the barista on the other end is just like, wow, let me tell you about my day, and they just unload. Like that's where it's like, oof. Like
what about if you meet a friend at an outdoor event?
And you start opening up to this friend immediately?
Yeah.
It sounds like you're processing your grief through them.
No, not immediately. Let's just say it was let's just say how long you lived here? Okay. A year.
Yeah, a year.
Why'd you move over here?
It's a long story. I don't really want to get into it right now.
Okay. I never thought about that. I'm always stuck in a position where it's like I don't want to lie, because if we do become better friends, then you knew right off the bat that I started our friendship in a lie.
Yeah, and
so I say the story, and it's like I don't want to say the story. This sucks. Like
there you go. That's the red flag. That's like you, and that's not.
But I don't know what else
to
say.
Red flag.
Yeah,
it
is a red
and
flag.
That's because we were kind of raised in this weird, modest society.
Yeah,
where you kind of like you're saying, like, oh, it's I'm not a trustworthy person, and I would be lying to them, or I'm not, you know. But the truth of it is, just kind of shift that frame of perspective and think, this is very valuable information, right? This is very meaningful information. You don't just hand that shit out to everybody.
No.
Right. And so you're not lying to these people. You're just saying, hey, like you can just be like, it's a pretty, like, you can be as descriptive or as vague as you want. And how that person receives that says more about them than you. It's a long story. I don't want to get into it right now. If somebody told me that, I'd be like, oh shit, no worries. Anyway,
when I hear that, I'm like, you're just trying to make yourself seem mysterious.
Well, dig into that. Why is being honest like that's
no, but for me it's like that's kind of weird. It's like, no, bro, like you're not that special.
No, you're not, but that situation is special.
No,
so they're like,
okay,
nobody like
I never even thought of that answer. That's like a brilliant answer.
Yeah, like I have been playing hockey for almost a year and a half here with the same team. I know everybody's name, but I literally don't know anything else about these people. I know we play hockey together. I know their names. I know their teams, the sports teams that they like. It's just, you know, nobody sits in that locker room and it's just like, you know, people might be like, man, I've had a really hard week at work. And all of us are just kind of like, ooh, yeah, that's a bummer. Let's take it out on the ice. Sometimes someone's like, oh, do you want to talk about it? And people are like, no, I really don't. Cool. That's fair. Like,
interesting.
Like that's
actually very shocking, because
it's
even when I've been playing pickleball a lot the past month. It's like we have games in between where people are talking, yo, so what do you do for work? What do you do this? And it's just like, now I know this person. Like, actually know them.
You know bits about them, and it's okay. Like I fall into this trap because I don't like small talk. Yeah.
I'm learning to like it because it's like I do it so much. It's like a checklist in my head. It's like, gotta ask this, gotta ask this, gotta ask this, gotta ask this, gotta ask this. And it sucks. But
yeah. Well, let me tell you how much I hate those questions.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sucks.
My least favorite question. What do you do for a living?
Yeah, that's the first one.
First one.
Well, what's your name? What do you do for a living?
What do you do? Why do you think people ask, what do you do for a living?
Okay, I like this segue. Because they want to measure, they want to know where you're at compared to them. And maybe not even compared to them, just to see where you're at.
Right.
They want to know, who am I dealing with? And what kind of character they can
prejudge you up. Yep.
Prejudge and I don't know if that's bad. I think that's just bad.
It's bad. It's shit.
No, if you're like, because I've heard all kinds of stories. I work in this or I work in that. But that does give you a sense of, just as long as you don't continue, like, that gives you just a frame As long as you're mature enough, or you've grown enough to know that that's just a frame. That doesn't mean that can't be anything else, right? But maybe that's giving a lot of credit to a lot of people. Most people.
Yeah, you're giving a whole lot of credit to a whole lot of people.
Because I feel weird even when they're asking me, "What do you do?" Oh, I do accounting for, and then they automatically think, "Oh, these guys must know everything about numbers."
Now they're judging, right?
Yeah,
and that's why it's so frustrating. Like if you're at a conference, you're at a trade show, you're somewhere specific where literally it has to do with what you do for work.
Yeah.
Asking that question makes sense at a conference. What do you do? Oh, I work on I work on this side. Oh, I work on this side of the product. Cool. Random ass people in the street at a party in a social setting. What do you like? Why does it matter? Like that's usually what I say when people are like, oh, this creates a lot of conflict in my relationship sometimes because I hate socializing this way. Someone's like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "What do you do? What do you mean? Oh, what do you do for a living?" I'm like, "I drink water and I breathe air. I eat food as well."
You hate that they're sizing you up, or do you hate that you have to explain your job?
What I really hate is how disingenuine it is. Like, I'm like, you don't really care. Like, I would personally absolutely prefer the question, "How much money do you make?"
Whoa.
Exactly. Because once we start putting those numbers out there, it benefits everybody. Everybody gets a raise immediately.
That's interesting. I don't know.
The moment you people realize how much money, their coworker that doesn't do shit all day is making, they're going to be like, I want that money too, which is fair. You deserve that money. That's why I hate it, because people want to size you up for the wrong reasons. They don't want to size you up to be like collaborating in the space. They want to know, okay, like, am I above you? Am I beneath you? Fuck that, dude. I meet someone, my favorite thing to ask people is, what do you like to do for fun?
I'm trying not to, because even today, before the pod, I went to go play pickleball.
Yeah.
There was a group of girls. I asked them what they did for a living, because that's what the fuck you ask.
Group of
women. Sorry, women. One of them, I forgot what she said, but the other one, I could tell, was very uncomfortable.
Right.
Because said,
society has created a bullshit stigma.
She said, I'm a massage therapist. And said it kind of like
she expects you to like follow up with the happy ending.
No,
or just demean her job.
No, not even that. Kind of like, well, I'm just a massage therapist. Like, I'm just she said. I'm just.
That's
kind of like a shame.
Right.
I didn't know what to say, because now I'm like, I don't actually care. Like, to me, it doesn't. I know. It was just going down the list. You know what I mean? And now that you bring it up, and I actually thought about it, well, I always knew why people asked, but the way it made her uncomfortable, I was like,
that should matter. Like, take that example, and that matters. Like,
no, because it shouldn't make you uncomfortable doing what you do. It is what you do. That's it. That's what you do.
If it was a genuine question, when you ask people, what do you order at Buffalo Wild Wings?
Yeah.
Like, you're not sizing people up. You're just curious. Hey, cool, because you care, because there's an equal footing there. I mean, sometimes maybe someone might be like, oh, Wingstop's better, but like, whatever.
Man, that's going to fuck with me, because now I'm going to be like always thinking about that.
Well, just be genuine.
I mean, I'm always curious. Like, I was very curious on what these people do. I am curious on what people do just out of curiosity. I'm like,
yeah. I mean, and that's fair curiosity. Like,
I actually had a meeting at work today, like a group, like our immediate team, and we were talking about small talk and stuff like that. It was weird, because I was like, I hate small talk because people don't care. Or I said, because I just don't care. And they're like, wait, so when I first met you, you didn't care? No, I care, but I always feel like people don't care, and they're just gonna ask me, and I'm like, why do I even have to answer? Like, you actually don't care. Like, and maybe that's a very cynical view of viewing things, but
I mean, it can be. So
that's why I stay quiet. But I know, like, I'm trying to be a better like networker, trying to be a better just talkative, because I feel like it could help me in certain scenarios and just overall socially. Okay. But definitely at work it could help, but even socially, I think
socially in which way?
In any situation I walk in, I could just be able to hold a conversation that.
Do you want to hold a conversation?
Well, I want to know I'm very curious about people. I want to get to know people, but you have to get through that barrier. I don't think there's a way around it. Like you have to get through that first initial, like they have to size you up. They have to know what kind of person you are. And they, I mean, not to brag on myself, but immediately people are very comfortable and very calm with me because I'm very genuine.
Yeah.
Like, right away.
Right.
So it's like they can put their guard down pretty much immediately.
Right.
For the most part.
Am I hearing you correctly that you've somehow managed to make it all the way until 2023 without reading the book How to Make Friends and Influence People?
Yeah.
Okay, you should read that book. And I'm gonna hate myself for saying that. Because now I'm just in the world of all these people promoting their self-help books. But I think it could help you. I don't know how it holds up, honestly. I read it like over a decade ago at this point.
Okay,
it used to be a very popular book. Like it's almost a meme now. How like recommended it was.
Yeah.
The gist of it is the concept of people getting people to talk about themselves. That is honestly the best way to conversate. And it kind of that's kind of where I get the idea of questions.
Yeah.
Like asking people questions. It's okay to be genuine. Like if you actually want to know what someone does for a living, totally. Like do it. Like ask them.
But I want to know, but part of it is because I want to size you up. I want to see where you're at. But not in comparison to me, just like,
oh, that's interesting. In comparison to what?
I just want to see, like, so if I look at you, I'm already prejudging you because I prejudge automatically.
Is that a good thing?
I think it is.
I mean,
I'm not saying it, and I'm not.
I've had to definitely not do it. I used to do it a lot.
But if I see someone and they look super nerdy, I'm like, okay, I'm expecting this. And then they tell me,
I'm insulted.
Yeah, and then they're like, "Oh, I work in this," and it's like, "Okay, cool." But if it was a super nerdy guy, and he's like, "Oh, I'm a professional athlete or something," like something completely, I'd be like, "Whoa!" But
damn, careful there! You're slipping into Boomerville.
Yeah, I know.
We don't have those definitions anymore. I think people are more comfortable doing what they want now. Don't.
Small talk sucks, is it?
Yeah, small talk does suck.
But that book, I guess I'll read it because I'm done with my other book. So
yeah, I think it will help. It helps me navigate social settings. It gets me in trouble because I took it too literally. I ask questions. I'm like, oh, cool, I can do this. And I meet someone. I'm like, hey, how's it going? Hey, what's up? Do you like movies? Yeah, what kind of movies? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, have you seen The Human Centipede? And then immediately it's just like, what?
Never watching the movie again.
Yeah, and then I'm just kind of like, okay, what? Everybody's just looking at me weird. They're like, I heard about that. It's kind of gross. I'm like, oh, it's such a fascinating. The Human Centipede 2, my favorite. And then that's it, dude. Like, I'm kicked out of the party.
My favorite.
So, like, definitely be careful. Like, you got to learn to, like, not get into that space sometimes.
Yeah. I think it'll just make me more comfortable in any social situation. Because
you pretty much are comfortable in social situations.
No, I'm not. Not initially. Like, I'm comfortable in social situations where other people start the social. And I just kind of jump in.
So you don't like silences? You find them awkward?
No. I'm saying, like, if I'm in a social situation, there's usually, I guess, the people that I'm trying to become, that asking all the questions, getting everyone involved, like.
You want to be one of those people?
Yeah, they're kind of putting oil to.
Yeah.
And then I just come in, and it's like once everyone's kind of, then I start to talk, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. I'm not the lubricator in this social situation.
Do you want to be? I mean,
I want to be able to. I mean, I'm not saying I'm gonna do it every single time. No, just so that I know that I can just pop in anywhere and be able to do that and just build more confidence. I mean, honestly, it's all about confidence. Yeah, I've been just trying to be more confident, feel more confident, and that's kind of the journey that I'm on right now. Is how confident can I push myself where it becomes arrogant? I want to get to that line.
Yeah, no, you don't want to be arrogant.
I don't, but I want to see how far. Right. I can take it.
I think, yeah. Well, confidence is I think people think confidence in something they have and something they can build on and work on.
I
But
think
confidence it's not. Confidence is a perception.
It's a mindset.
You are perceived confidently, not that you are confident.
No.
We speak of it as if you are. Like we speak of confidence as something we hold, but it's 100% perception. It is how people perceive you.
But the way you act is the way people perceive you.
The way you act can impact that. Yes. Like if you act timid and unsure, then there's a lack of confidence. Sure. But that kind of on the side, what I'm really trying to say is instead of learning behaviors, confident behaviors, it's better to develop security within you, because that security is what kind of creates those behaviors, which is what people perceive as confident, and is how we end up with Jar Jar Binks. Like,
well, I'm doing both. So we talked about in the last pod, if you haven't listened, listen to that, where I'm getting physically fit, like hardcore. Like I want to see how far I could take my body to be as fit as I can. And I want to be able to socialize. When you mix those two together, usually a person who's really physically fit and can talk confidently because they're just talking, like that creates a certain level of appearance. Like someone appears to them to be confident. But I also worked on myself a lot. Like I'm very secure with myself. I'm very so I'm doing both.
Right. There's avenues. It's just
I want to know how far I can push the outside perception, because the inside perception, I'm as confident as I've ever been inside. I mean, I'm sure there's. I mean, not. I'm sure I still have stuff to work on, but
no, that's okay. Yeah. Just because you're at the level doesn't mean there's not another level above. That's
the outside perception, I'm not there yet. On what I think.
Yeah, I mean,
and not that I really care too much about what people think. I want to make that clear too. I really don't, but it is. I want to see what happens. It's more like I want to see what happens. I want to see how people treat me if I succumb to all these stereotypes.
Yeah, I mean, you probably will be treated differently. I mean, you're already treated differently.
Yeah, and I just want to know how that feels, first of all, and then why.
Oh, that's a good experiment.
Because I'm not going to do anything different personality. I am who I am.
Right. I predict you might find a lot of assumptions made about you.
Yeah, I know. I'm ready.
That's good.
I'm like, please, because I'm not that.
Yeah.
I feel like in a way that's going to be a lie.
Then you're gonna have to engage in small talk. Worry about lying.
Yeah. No, that's good. I mean, that's a lot of things right there, man. That's a lot of shit. We're all fucking all over the place. Yeah. That's what I've been thinking about all week, actually. It's why I'm so patient and
could just be part of your personality. I mean,
and also like the advice giving. I'm not giving too much advice, but I feel like we are getting older and we're getting to that point where you've done it a lot of your life, like you said, but for me it's
okay to say no. I say no to advice giving now. Like there's people that will ask for advice and I might consider it, and I'm just like, I really don't. Like I know exactly what I want to say. I have it completely laid out in my head, but I'm just kind of like, the person's just not there to receive that. Like, Yeah,
I don't know. I'm kind of scared of getting to that point, because it's like, it's a boundary that you set because it's for your own health, but it's like, what if that person really needs it? Like,
I mean, what if that person really needs it? Like, that is
no, like you will never know. Like,
I mean, it's not
your
it's not your job to care for these people. These people are their own independent humans, and
Yeah.
And if you really sense there's risk, if somebody were to come to me asking for advice and I'm like, this is beyond my like capability, I might just be like, let's find you some professional help. Like this is not in my wheelhouse. But most of the time now it's just no. Be like, damn, that sucks. Wow, that's crazy.
I don't know.
And you get to a whole conversation like that.
I think you should think about that a little bit more. I don't know. It sounds very. It's like that's part of who you are, right?
It's a part of who I am, yeah, but it doesn't mean
it doesn't define who you are. Yeah. Okay, so I see what you're saying.
Like it has to be meaningful. Like giving you advice is rewarding. Giving James advice is rewarding. Like I'm not like emptying the tank when I do that. Like it is rewarding. It is, whether y'all do like whatever the fuck y'all do, like that's cool. Like it's just, that's rewarding.
What's rewarding about it? Because you're saying that it doesn't factor whether we follow it or not.
Right. I think what's rewarding about it, I mean, in a selfish way, it's amusing because I don't really gamble, but I definitely do like placing little mind bets on how things are going to play out.
Yeah.
And then just being it's like, normal. Ooh, do I get to say I told you so? Do I get to say I told you so? And then it comes back and I'm like, I told you so. Yeah. And I love that. So it's fun, but it's also kind of cool because, I mean, these are just people I care about. So seeing like it's part of that collective experience, and
I do get a kick out of that. I told you so.
Oh yeah,
I told you so is the best.
Yeah, and then you get tired of it, and that's why you don't give certain people advice. Too many I told you so's, and you're like, you're actually not listening.
So they have to at least once in a while be like, I followed.
Yeah, what you said. Yeah. Once in a while, or even come to the conclusion. Maybe you say, if you put your hand in the fire, it's going to burn. And they're like, no, it's not. And they put it in the fire and they're like, you know what? I'm not going to put my hand in the fire because it burns. And I'm
okay. We'll end on this because we're a little bit past the hour. But why do you think people don't follow advice?
Why do I think people don't follow advice?
Yeah. So it's like when you talk about cousins, it's like, how many times have we said, this is what's going to happen? Don't do this. And like, why as humans do we always have to put our hand in the fire, even though someone is telling you it's going to hurt? Like, because I try to look at that now when I receive advice, I look at that from that lens where it's like, okay, they're obviously telling me this because that's something that they experience. Like they're literally telling me it's hot. Why do I have to touch it?
Right. If I had, I mean, I could go on for an hour on that. The summary of that is, I think, because the very nature of humanity, we think we're so fucking special. And
like, have you done it?
I fucking do it, all the time.
Have you ever stopped and be like, why?
I guess, I mean, that's a good question. Like, I got into the workforce when I was really young, and I immediately had like, I went from being the youngest person everywhere, and now I'm like the oldest. So anyway, it's weird.
Okay. Yeah.
But I didn't necessarily dismiss or discount advice. I think it helped me a lot. Like I remember the first time I learned about a 401k when I was like 17. And I was like, I should probably do that. And just kind of not understanding why, but doing it anyway. The times where I've gone against the current have been when it's kind of like a risk tolerance. Like the idea of starting a business. Having done it, even now, if you were to ask me what would I tell someone, I would still be like, don't do it.
Yeah.
and you're like, that makes no sense. You did it. Everybody told me not to do it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it was a risk tolerance. Like I understood what they were saying. I understood they were saying there's a high chance of failure.
Yeah.
And so what they didn't hear when I would say I'm going to do it anyway is that I was basically saying I accept that failure and I want to do that anyway. Like it's not so much I'm discounting your, like, someone's saying, don't put your hand in the fire, it's going to burn. And I'm going to say, okay, well, I'm only going to put it in for 15 seconds and then I'm going to take it out. Like, that's the difference. Why do I think people don't follow advice? I think we just think we're too special. I think everybody gets caught up in their own situation. 9 out of 10 times they're like, but there's a chance, like that Dumb and Dumber line. What you're saying is there's a chance. Like, yeah.
the power of I'm different. Yeah, hope. It's like no, but you don't understand. Like
Right.
you don't.
Right.
Yeah,
You don't get it. It's different this time. It's different.
that
And
power
you're
is
like,
so big, huh?
right. And it is also a lack of experience. Like I think people
Because you'll find the outlier. Yeah.
and just hang on to it. And that is hope is extremely dangerous.
Mm,
It is why I think I'm reluctant to be around people that are overly optimistic and overly hopeful and sort of trivialize the struggle into these, like, they minimize it really into these ideas of, well, we just have to be hopeful, let's be positive. And it's like, no, let's be realistic.
mm-hmm.
Like, don't give someone false hope when you know there's a 99.9% chance that situation's going to fuck them up.
Oh, damn. Yeah, that's true.
But
yeah, that's the way I've been viewing now. When I receive advice, I view it through that lens a lot, and I think that's helped in terms of, okay, like what you said, risk. It's like, okay, I know what you're saying,
right,
and I'm gonna do it, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean,
a little bit of hope, a little bit of this, but when we're giving advice to our younger cousins, it's like there's some advice where it's like, as a parent, where I'm telling you I'm impatient, where it's like, dude, I'm fucking telling you, please don't.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like,
I think that's the key, is you're just saying it. It kind of struck me. I think, to kind of wrap it all up, advice can really be broken down into the idea of making an informed decision. And so when you think of advice, you see, is this person trying to make a better informed decision? If so, let me give them advice. Let me give them information that I have. Hey, here's what happened when I pushed the red button. Here's what happened when I touched the hot fire. Here's what happened when I did that. Here's all this information for you. Now you kind of decide, are you going to risk it for the fucking biscuit or not?
Yeah.
There are people that aren't trying to make an informed decision. They're just trying to feel better about their shitty situation.
Yeah. Yeah. There's way more on this subject because you can get into credibility of the person giving advice, the perceived credibility of the person, the influence that person. Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
That right there. Whew, let me tell you about. No, I can't tell you about it.
Yeah.
Next time.
Next time. But no, thanks. This has been good.
Cool. Yeah.
Appreciate it. And that's it for this one.